So if you're like me and you're headed to Vegas here sometime soon and you had one of these 6 storm balls in your bag ready to go, you got to make some adjustments. So what should you do? Let's find out. What is up, you guys? Welcome to 10 Pin Life. In this video, we are going to go over the 6 replacements for the 6 balls that are now not allowed at USBC Nationals or any of the USBC National events. If you are new to 10 Pin Life, please be sure to scroll down, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with your friends before they start packing up to head out to Vegas. So as of March 30th, the Altered Reality, Wolverine, Ufo Alert, Phaze 4, Trend 2, and Electrify Solid are all out. You are not allowed to throw them at the USBC Open Championships or any of their other national tournaments, but the big one that we're all worried about is Nationals. So, in lieu of that, what should you bring with? Before we get into it, I want to throw a huge shout out to my friend Rhino over at Striking Edge Pro Shop. He has been on Storm and Roto staff as a Pro Shop guy for a very long time, and these recommendations are straight from him. Got him right here. And he was able to kind of help me get lined out with some of the changes that I had to make to my arsenal and wanted to help out everybody else. If you are in the market for a new fit, a new ball, and you are in the central Wisconsin area, please be sure to check them out. I have a link to their information in the description below. I will put a caveat out there and say that these picks are based around shape, not necessarily about what goes in with the exchange program. I haven't even looked at it because I have a Wolverine, I have a UFO Alert, I also have a Spectre, but that's a different thing. But I'm not exchanging any of them. I'm just going to get some different balls, but I like buying bowling balls, so that's just me. So I apologize if these aren't a part of the exchange, but I want you guys to go out there with the shapes that make sense to you, and if the Phaze 4 made sense, what's going to be the closest replacement? So here we go. Let's dive in. So let's start out on the easy side of things. The Electrify Solid. Lower performance bowling ball, and it's got some equivalents that are already in the line with the Hustle Camo, but in my opinion, the closest replacement for this ball is going to be the 900 Global Burner Solid. Now, this ball is definitely a little bit stronger front to back. It's got a little less pop down lane, so if you just bring the surface up on it a little bit, or even like knock it down and then bring it back up to 4,000, probably be something that I would do, just to have it be a little bit closer to the Electrify shape. If you really liked it, going to be your closest bet. The second easiest ball to replace is going to be the Wolverine. Now, I have absolutely loved this ball. I really think that the Wolverine is actually better than the Zen, which a lot of people gave me crap for. However, the closest equivalent to this ball in the Storm products lineup is actually going to be either a high road or a high road Pearl. And the difference in those two is going to be based on your rev rate. If you're a higher rev rate guy or a lower tilt guy or gal, I would go with the high road Pearl. But if you're a little bit lower rev rate and you need the ball to pick up just a little bit sooner because the Wolverine was really strong in the mid lane, go with the original high road. The other thing about this is the differential numbers on the high road are a little bit less. So when you go into your pro shop and say, hey, I'm going to flip out this Wolverine for one of these 2 high roads, be sure that you drill it a little bit extra strong, a stronger pin position, somewhere around 4.5 inches, something like that, or whatever matches up best with your game. We really liked that ball because of the way that it went through pins, the continuation, and how clean it was to the fronts. And the high road and the high road Pro can definitely do that, but we want to make sure that it doesn't kind of quit through the middle part of the lane, and differential is going to be the thing that makes that happen, so drill it strong. Then we get into some of the more difficult replacements, because the Phaze 4, the Trend 2, the UFO Alert, and the Altered Reality really had defined places in the Storm products lineup. And like, even though they're shiny ASIMs or they're shiny symmetrical balls, their discrepancies between the lineup was pretty significant. So these aren't perfect replacements, but they're as close as we can get if we still want to throw balls that are within the Storm products line. So starting off, we get to the Phaze 4. The thing about the Phaze 4 that a lot of people liked was the fact that it was as clean as what the Phaze 3 was, with a little bit more kick down lane. And this ball, I think, can be best replaced not by a Phaze 3, not by a shined up Phaze 2, but by a hyped Pearl. The hyped Pearl came out at the same time as the hyped Hybrid. The hyped Hybrid has gotten absolutely no love. The Pearl has been thrown a decent amount, but it's got the curse of the HP2. I loved the show-offs. I loved the MVPs. I love these HP2 balls, but nobody buys them. But the hyped Pearl is a ball that has a ton of kick down lane. So if you have trouble with corner pins, and that's why you bought the Phaze 4, this is probably going to be something that's going to match up really well to replace that shape in your bag when you get out to Vegas. Now, if you liked your Phaze 4 after 50 games, after it track wore in a little bit, you might want to go with something like a Phaze 3 because it's got that hybrid cover stock, it's going to read a little bit sooner, and it's going to be a little bit smoother overall. Or just go with the trusty Phaze 2 and knock the cover up a little bit on it, because we all know the fact that the Phaze 2 has been around for so dang long means that they're doing something right with it. So if you can just get that cover to match up a little bit closer, obviously it's not going to have nearly as much punch down lane as a Phaze 4 would, but you like the core, and if you like the overall shape of the ball, that might also be an applicable option. However, if you want clean and hook, the hyped Pearl is probably going to be your best bet. Next up on the list is the UFO Alert. Now, I drilled one of these the day before this announcement came down, and I've thrown it a lot. And I've liked the shape of the ball, but not because it's a prototypical shiny ASIM. This ball is super, super strong front to back. Even though it is a hybrid reactive bowling ball, it's one that really likes to see the front part of the lane and see the middle part of the lane and be even off the back end of a pattern. It doesn't do the skid flip thing. So in my opinion, the best ball to replace that shape is actually the 900 Global Reality. When that ball came out, everybody kind of looked at it and was just like, how is a solid cover bowling ball making that shape? I really don't understand this, because it would get through the fronts really, really well for as strong of a ball as it is. And the thing about it is that the cover on the Reality, although it's strong, isn't really strong. There's a lot of core in that ball, but not a ton of cover, say like a proton physics. So what do we want to do with that? Well, let's bring the cover up. I would hit it with like a 5,000 pad, really spin it up, get it to shine up a little bit, and let it be, again, that even through the front, even through the middle, and even down lane. Enough core, enough cover to be able to do all of that stuff. It's not going to be an exact replacement, and I don't necessarily think I would want to polish it, because that just makes such a different shape than a higher grit surface. But overall, I think if you're able to get a Reality, get it to be drilled in a similar way to your UFO Alert, and then ultimately just bring that cover up a little bit in grit, it should be pretty close. And then in a similar wavelength is the Altered Reality. Now, the UFO Alert and the Altered Reality have two very, very different shapes. The Altered Reality revs up a ton in the mid lane and really just hits it and then just rolls left. It's got such a defined shape, similar to the Nova, but cleaner through the fronts. So how do you replace that when a lot of the clean stuff is now off the table? This is where it gets crafty, because there's not really an exact replacement for this ball. And I know a lot of people are thinking about the RST X2, but in my opinion, it's too clean and it's also too even down lane. It doesn't do that hit it and roll thing that the Altered Reality does. But if you want to get close to that, here's a crazy idea. Take a proton physics and spin it up to 4,000, 5,000, or maybe even like a step 2 polish. That'll allow it to get through the front part of the lane and really just rip when it hits friction and do that tumble left thing. What that idea is trying to do is have a ball that has a ton of core and still has a strong cover, but isn't strong in the front part of the lane. The S84 Pearl cover was a really, really strong cover. The Reality core is a really, really strong core. So we need something that's close to that. And the proton physics is as close as we can get, but it's a really strong, solid cover. So if we can get that to be clean through the fronts and just hit friction, rev up quick, and then do that tumble thing that the Altered Reality was so good at, it should be a really, really good option. Then we get to what, in my opinion, is the hardest ball out of all 6 of these to replace in any arsenal, in any setting. And that's going to be the Trend 2. When the Trend 2 came out, it was deliberately unique in a lot of different ways. Middle of the road RG, middle of the road differential, middle of the road cover, but it all matched up into a shape that if you liked it, you loved it. I have seen so many people absolutely fall in love with that ball, and the fact that they can't bring it out to nationals now is kind of a bummer because that became their IQ tour, that became their Phaze 2. That shape is so hard to replicate, where you're really going to have to get crafty in thinking about what your layout's doing, what your surface is doing, and ultimately what you're doing with your hand to try to make a similar shape. There's a lot of different ways that you could actually go with this option, but I'll give you my two best ones. The first of those options is going to be a weakly drilled Zen. There's a lot of reasons why I think that this is a good option, but here's the top two. Number one, the Zen was probably the best ball in anybody's arsenal at nationals last year. Now, the fact that we bowled on two different lane surfaces was a big contributor to that fact. However, a guy just threw 300 with it. It's still a great bowling ball. It's still a great option. The second reason is that if you take this route, you can bring two Zens. And if it's that good once, couldn't it technically be that good twice? So if you do one that's strong and one that's weak to replace your Trend 2, say with about a 5.5-inch pin from your axis point, you've got a ball that we know works, and you've got two different options with it, and it's going to be close to a shape that you like. The second option that I would argue it can potentially replace a Trend 2 is going to be a Phaze 2. Now, this isn't necessarily because I think the shapes are going to be identical. First off, you're going to have to bring the surface up on the Phaze 2. Either shine it with some step 2, probably not step 3 because that's really, really shiny. But the biggest reason why I picked the Phaze 2 as a second option here was basically because I can't pick an IQ Tour. Idle Helios is going to be close. The IQ Tour would be close because they're benchmark type reactions, and the Trend 2 to me was a benchmark type reaction. But it was a little bit more. It was just more overall, more front to back, a little bit more right to left. The Phaze 2 is in a similar ballpark in terms of overall hook potential. Now, I think all three of those could be options if you're willing to bring the surfaces up or if you're a lower rev rate type person. However, I really think the Phaze 2 is the one that stands out of all three of those solid cover bowling balls to potentially be close to replacing your Trend 2 if that's what you need in your arsenal. But here's the biggest piece of advice I can give to you as a bowler that is going out to Vegas. There's a lot of different options. There's the exchange program, there's financial limitations, there's the way that your balls are laid out and the way that you like to play it, that, different parts of the lane. Go ask your pro shop guy or call a different pro shop guy. Cool part about Storm Products is they've got their VIP pro shops, and all those guys are certified by Storm and RotoGrip to be able to help you out specifically within their product line. And everyone that I've talked to has been willing and able to help. So if you're really curious and just not sure what to do, go ahead and ask one of them because they're going to be able to help you out best. But overall, the biggest thing is just go out to Vegas and have fun. If you feel like you had to leave a shape at home and it's frustrating, don't let it get to you, because if you get mad, you're not going to enjoy your time. You're going to throw it worse and you're going to score worse. Just go out, stay loose, have fun. It seems like the conditions are a little bit softer this year. Just get the ball down the lane, let it do its work, and find a shape that works for you with what you can bring. If you want to send in your letters to USBC, do it after the fact. But for now, just accept it for what it is. Go out and have as much fun as you can. And don't forget, your best life is a 10-pin life. See ya.